Welcome to the Venus Flytrap Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Stephen Paul Edwards, and this is where we talk about relationships. And of course, everything is a relationship, right? You have a relationship with your spouse, your husband, your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your significant other, whatever you want to call them, right? And, sometimes those relationships get toxic, don't they? I ask people very often, have you ever had a toxic relationship? Most people seem to say yes, right? If they say no, I say, well, you need to get out more often, right? Because usually at some point in our lives, we're going to have a toxic relationship, right? We're going to go through some tough times. And very often we can fall into a pattern of being a victim. And what I want to share with you during the course of these podcasts, through the books, the tapes, through the live events, and all the different things we're doing to reach people, to help them live the life they were born to live, the life that they deserve to live, is help them recognize and deal with these patterns in a way they can dissolve them and recreate new patterns. So these patterns usually, but not always, are created in our childhood, right? Trauma in our childhood, difficult things in our childhood, very often because we have these difficult relationships with our parents, our siblings, in school, our ethnicity, where we're born, our environment, even religion, right? Can all create these thought patterns, these beliefs. I call them transparent beliefs. You're not even aware you've got them, right? But they're controlling your life. And if we don't deal with them, they're going to keep repeating in your life until you do recognize that life is a mirror. It's reflecting you back at you. These people say, well, I want to meet this person, want to meet that person. Well, you got to become that person first, because that's what you're going to attract into your life. That vibration that you create when you release all this negative energy and these patterns that you develop when you're a child, everything changes. And you start to attracting the people, the circumstances and situations that you really want to have in your life instead of the circumstances that don't. So everything is a relationship. You have a relationship with money. Don't have any? It's because you have a bad relationship with money, right? Or about your career. You have a relationship with your career, with the people who work with you, with your family. Yeah, I know that's going to be a good one, right? With your friends. And of course, the person that you have made your significant other in this life, all right? So here's what I can tell you. You don't have a relationship problem. You just have a pattern problem. And the patterns are not who you are. They're just patterns that you've created over the course of time and then just keep repeating. So we got to break those patterns and recreate new ones so that you can, like I said, live life on your terms. All right. So I can promise you this, the time we're going to spend together is going to be entertaining, right? I'm going to have fun with you. I'm going to laugh at you, but I'm also going to laugh at me too. I'm going to laugh at life because humor is very, very healing, right? It's also funny. There's nothing wrong with having a good laugh, right? So entertaining. Enlightening. I'm going to share with you stuff that'll blow your mind, that you've never heard before, that you don't know yet, right? That is going to change the way you think. It's going to change the things you say, and it's going to change the things you do. So, like I said, we're going to have fun. It's going to be entertaining. It's going to be enlightening, and it's going to be empowering. So let's begin.
Suit in a London rain. He built an empire to mask the pain. A self-made man with a heart and heart, watching the world from a place apart. Then she walked in like a sudden blade in the midnight heat where the shadows played. A fallen heiress with a rebel soul, ready to take back control. She lived by no rules but her own desire, wrapping his life in a ring of fire. An international ghost of a golden age, stepping back onto the center stage. Oh, the Venus flytrap.
Okay, so we're going to go through some questions, some observations that can help us get a better understanding of these toxic relationships, right? So we can understand them better, why they come into our lives, and how we can deal with them. So a lot of questions come up like, can you really love someone and still need to leave them? Absolutely. Absolutely. That happened for me in the book, the Venus flytrap, sex, lies, and repercussions, right? I met this amazing woman, fell in love way too quickly, right? But eventually realized that the relationship was so toxic that even though I loved her very much, very deeply, I had to leave, right? So yes, you can absolutely love someone and have to leave them. Now, in my case situation, in every situation when you're in a toxic relationship, it's not easy to break free for various reasons. Well, because you love them, right? Even though your friends are telling you, listen, you need to get out of this relationship. This is not good. This person is bad, right? For you. And yet you in your mind talk yourself into it again by you say, yeah, but they don't understand. I know them. I know her. I know him. He's a really good person at heart. Everybody's a good person at heart, right? But it doesn't mean they can't do destructive things that can mess you up. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to do destructive things that mess you up. But here's what I want you to take into your heart. They didn't do it to you. They did it for you. At a deep soul level, they did it for you to show you, to be a mirror, showing you the things that you have given up during the course of your life without even being aware of it. The parts of yourself. If you're attracted to a person because they're very confident, it's probably because you don't feel that confident and you're attracted to that. But that's your soul, your spirit, you seeing that outside of yourselves and thinking it's just for somebody else. Every potential you see in anyone else is a potential that lies within you. What you're being shown is that you need to activate that, right? Now, that's not the only mirror. There are other mirrors that are going to come at you as well. But if you can open yourself up to the possibility that the things you see in someone else are potentials that lie within you and start to explore them, things will change, won't they? Things will change significantly. And they're showing you how to be that, or they're showing you how not to be, right? That you're being without realizing it. Maybe you're afraid to step into some of these qualities that you see in somebody else. Maybe you're judging those qualities in other people because you've judged them in yourself. There's a multitude of patterns. There's a multiple, which is a beautiful word. It's Persian. Anyway, so multiple reasons why you will have pulled these into your lives. And let's be honest, we're never taught this stuff, right? It's confusing. So I always say, you've heard me say it before, prevention is better than cure. Deal with these things earlier rather than later. And I've said before, if you take all this baggage, all these patterns that are destructive into a relationship, what's going to happen? You're going to live happily ever after, right? No, you're not going to live happily ever after. You're going to live miserably ever after, right? Until you deal with it. And unfortunately, we're taught in our society that we're victims, that life happens to you. We're not taught that life happens for you, right? People go, well, that's crazy, right? And so it's very difficult. It's confusing. So if you really want to deal with this at the best time, do it before. Prevention is better than cure. The earlier you do it, the better and more harmonious your relationship is going to be with everything. We're going to get into everything, right? I'm going to teach you how to generate wealth, right? And I'm going to teach you what wealth is, right? And it's not what you might think. I'm going to show you how to have better relationships at work, how to have better relationships in your career. All these things are relationships, but the number one relationship is the relationship you have with who? With you, right? And if we can help create that relationship within you, then you will attract all these other things. You'll attract the opportunities, the people, the circumstances, everything you need, which you're doing right now. If you're attracting toxic relationships, that's what you need right now to show you yourself. This is what you're attracting. You want to change what you're attracting into your life? Change those patterns. And I can help you do that through what? The podcast, through live events, through audios, from books. I'm coming at you every which way, right? You choose choose your poison, right? I'm coming after you, right? Okay, so I'm going to go through some observations and some questions here that I think can help. So I've just talked about one, that you can love someone deeply and you can still need to leave them. And that can create a dichotomy. It can create confusion for people. How can I love them and still need to leave them? Well, because you want to preserve yourself. And in the book, I explain and show you, it's a story, right? This is what happened, right? I used to say it's a memoir, but I'm not allowed to say that anymore because I had to change some things in the book so that I protected people's identity, right? I had changed names and stuff like that, right? So I have to say it's based on a true story. But other than that, it's a true story. And so if you read the story, it's incredible. I mean, it's an amazing story. It's freaking hilarious, number one. It's tragic. It's a love. It's a romance. The sex is off the chain, right? But I didn't write the sex in there for the sake of it, right? It was just stuff that it happened at the time we were going through the story. This is what happened next, and I figured I've thought about it a lot. And should I put that in there? And I've talked to people that say no, it's one of the best parts of the book. Oh, okay, I'll leave it in. All right, but it also really gives you a sense of the connection that we had, how we created the connection, and how that translated into the bedroom, which is pretty darn good. Anyway. But without getting these understandings, without someone coming into our lives and creating chaos, right? Showing us these things, we'd never see them and we'd never be able to be who we really are. And I believe, that as we go through this life, what we're doing is remembering who we really are. And you go, well, who the hell am I? Well, we're going to find that out, right? You're unique. You're unique. You're unique. Also, in some languages called unique, a unique aspect of the whole. You're not apart from the creative force that flows. The flows. I'm really going well today. I don't know what I have to do. I'm going to have to put my mouth back on. That flows through everything. You're a part of the energy that flows through everything. Some people call it the force. Some people call it the universe. Some people call it God. It doesn't matter. God, the universe, doesn't have an ego. But the universe and God do want to talk to you. They want to be a part of your life, not apart from your life. Just like you are a part of the universe, not apart from it. All right? So these are things that we need to grasp onto, to believe, right? So that we can heal ourselves, right? And realize it's a journey, right? And the journey has a lot of experiences on it. And those experiences sometimes are going to be tough. Why? Because you wouldn't listen, right? You wouldn't listen. And also because you made it that way on purpose. Perhaps you decided who your parents were going to be before you came here. Perhaps you picked out the challenges you wanted to face, like, being abused. I know, that's a big one, all right? Well, we're going to talk about it, so calm down. Don't get mad. Stay with me. Or you chose to be, my parents would gaslight me. My parents would manipulate me. My parents would shut me down, so I had no voice. I'm not saying this for you to feel sorry for me. I'm just saying I went through trauma. I used to have to bang my head on the pillow at night to go to sleep. I had to bang my head on the pillow until I was exhausted and fell asleep. I was put in an insane asylum when I was 16, and on it goes. If you listen to my podcast, I talk about this all the time, not to get sympathy, but to share with you I've been through it, right? I've had these tough traumas in my life and carried them with me for most of my life and been afraid to talk about them most of my life, being terrified that people would find out that I went through these things because they might not like me anymore. They might not love me anymore. They might not accept me anymore. And I'd be an outcast from society, from people, all these things. But you go, really? Because of that? Yeah, we make it up in our head, right? Because we're afraid. Well, I was, right? And so only by letting go of that fear and speaking out about these things could I get past them and change the patterns. Now, I put it all in a book, right? I'm not suggesting maybe you go that far to begin with. I'm kind of intense, right? And I'm kind of like, I go over the top in whatever I do. So that's me. I put it in a book and figured, what the hell? What are people going to say? Well, they could say that they don't like you anymore. They could. Then I went through and I went, you know what? I'm only living a half life anyway because I'm scared that people are going to find this out. I've created this persona, this identity that if people find these things out, it'll ruin that identity. They won't, what would you say, respect me anymore. I wouldn't listen to what I had to say anymore. Now, when you speak it out loud, it sounds so stupid, but when you're carrying this around, it's for real. So I would be on a stage with, thousands of people in front of me. oh, yeah. And they've come up afterwards. Oh, you're amazing. And you go, yeah, but that's not me, right? That is just a persona. It's a show. I'm talking about all the amazing things that you can do and have in this life, but it's not me. It's not who I am. I'm a flawed person. Now, fortunately, now I'm perfect. I'm kidding, right? So I'm still flawed, very flawed. I went through these experiences and I had a tremendous healing, but there's a lot more work to do, as you'll probably figure out as we go through this stuff, right? But it's okay. You don't have to be perfect. Well, maybe you do. Do you think? Really? You don't? You sure about that? You sure you're not trying to be perfect? Because I surely was, right? And I was far from it. I'm a little closer right now. Long way to go. You know what I mean? But anyway, no, we're not perfect in everybody's eyes. Why? Because tell me what perfect is. Well, people say, well, I just want to be normal. Well, good luck with that. Let me know when you figured out what normal is and we'll all become it. No, right? It's never going to happen. So no matter what you do, some people are going to like you. Now, not many, obviously, right? But some people are going to like you. And some people are not, no matter what you do. So you may as well do and be who you really are. And be authentic. Be the truth. Live your truth. And some people will be drawn to it and some people won't. It's okay. You can't be friends with all of them anyway. You don't have enough time, right? They say that really in life, you can only really ever have 5 close friends. Everybody else is an acquaintance, right? So you take all this into account, then it takes away, not all, but some of the fear. I got to tell you, when I wrote all this in the book, I was like, oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen, right? So I took a leap of faith. I had to have the courage to write it, and I give myself credit for that. Not much else, but I gave myself credit for having the courage to write it in there. Especially, I've come from England. I know you thought it was Yugoslavia, but it is actually England that I'm from. So I grew up there, and some people say I never really grew up, but I'm not going to argue with them right now. So I grew up in England and came to the United States when I was 29. So in England, we tend to be very conservative. We talk like that, like you can't really move your mouth very much, and then we have tea every afternoon. We have a cup of tea and we have scones, yes, with clotted cream and strawberries. No, that's not what we all do. It's what people think we do, but we are kind of a little uptight, right? If you listen to English people, they can be a little uptight. We're not going to be sitting around having scones, clotted cream with strawberries, talking about our trauma, right? We're not going to be talking about sex for sure, right? And here I am in this book exposing that I've got a freaking sex room in my mansion. Nobody would have ever thought that I had a sex. I never talked to anybody about my sexual exploits. And people go, well, you did a pretty good job of it in the book. I know, but I'd never done that before. Swear to whoever you want me to swear to. All right. I hadn't. Right. And so it was scary. I'm like, geez, man. But it just came out as I'm writing the story. I'm telling a story. Right. So anyway, that was scary for me. It was being vulnerable. Oh, the V word. Yes, the V word, right? So vulnerability is not a weakness. It's a power. Let me repeat that. Vulnerability is not a weakness. It's a power. How the hell is it a power? What if you become vulnerable in your relationship and your spouse uses that against you? Then they're not the right person for you. And now you know. Anybody who loves you would never take the things you tell them in moments of vulnerability and use them against you. They will cherish those things because you're telling them things nobody else knows. And what that does, it creates intimacy. You see, it doesn't start with intimacy in the bedroom. That's bullshit, right? It begins in your relationship by being vulnerable in your relationship, and that vulnerability seeps into the bedroom. You see, if you can tell people the things you've never told anybody else, you're being vulnerable, right? And that builds trust. And you're never going to have the sexual passion, desire, and satisfaction in the bedroom. until you have that trust. Because you're probably going to do things in there that you probably don't want other people to know about. But you got to trust that you can tell those things and do those things with the person you love, knowing that it's between you and them. And you got to know that. You've got to have that trust. And so you got to build that trust outside the bedroom, right? Yeah, I know people can be pretty wild and sexual without you even knowing them. And that's pretty darn good. But it ain't as good as it will be when you have that vulnerability. As you see in the book, as Tamaz and I got more and more vulnerable with each other, our sex got better and better and better because we became freer and freer and freer in that bedroom, right? You see, it was pretty free to begin with, I know, but it got better. So vulnerability is a power. Now, again, I just said it earlier, I put it all in a book. I put the fact that I was in a mental institution, that I walked on eggshells when I was at home, that I was in a very controlled environment, that my parents were gaslighters, that they were manipulators. They would shut me down. And they would say things like, all the other kids would be like getting ice cream. And my parents would say, "You don't want ice cream, do you, Stephen?" That's manipulation, right? Because now you are aggressively saying to your child that it doesn't want ice cream. Does it? Don't say you do, right? And that makes you feel like, well, it made me feel like I was in a straitjacket. And guess what? I ended up in a straitjacket, right? In an asylum, right? Getting electroconvulsive therapy because all this anger, rage was pushed down inside me. Has to come out, guys. So when you have resentment, you have anger, you can't forgive somebody, that's energy. That's being pushed down into the cells of your body, and you're going to end up in an asylum. Or maybe you should, right? But that's got to come out, And what we're seeing in our world now and in the past, all these bombs, explosions, are a mirror of the anger that's held up inside our consciousness. It has to come out, right? So if we really want peace, we have to create peace in ourselves. And that's what the Buddhists have always been trying to tell us. When they get up in the Himalayas and they pray and bow 100 times before breakfast, that's exhausting, right? But the reason that people say, what the heck is the point of the Buddhist praying in the Himalayas? How's that going to help us down here? Because here's what they know. Hi, listen, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we're here to make a public service announcement. If you're enjoying this conversation, which I know you are, right? Because if you say no, you probably lie about other things too, right? So if you're enjoying this, which I really do hope that you are, please take a moment to follow or hit the subscribe button and the like button so you never miss an episode. Let's get back to the conversation. That every thought you have goes into the consciousness. And they knew over time by doing this that slowly but surely they were helping raise the consciousness. And there's an old prophecy that says, when those who wear the red robes roam the earth, will be a signal of great change. And now the Buddhists are all over the place, right? They go out on tour and share their beliefs, their music, the sound of that music, that vibration on its own is healing, right? Powerful. So they knew that because they were aware. They were awakened, not woke. Let's not go down the woke road right now. Even though what it meant was that when people were saying, yeah, he's woke, it just meant that he was more awakened, right? And of course, how we live in this world where people will take a word that's powerful and positive for some people and turn it into a negative. It's the world we live in. And that's why you need to get control of your thoughts, your words, and your actions. You got to be very careful what you feed your mind. Now, this is not new. You've heard this a million times, but it's true. What do they say? G-I-G-O, garbage in, garbage out, right? It's true. And if our kids are watching things that are not a positive thing, that are destructive, how are they going to act in life? Yeah. So we got to be careful. And when we're raising children, they're our responsibility. They're not ours. You don't own them, right? But they become your responsibility. They're in your care, right? And you've got to care enough about them to spend time with them, to give them the benefit of your wisdom, and make sure they're prepared to live a healthy, wealthy life. That's your obligation, because in the meantime, you get to have all kinds of happiness and joy spending time with those children while you're preparing them for the life they were born to live, right? Okay, so yes, you can love someone deeply and still need to leave them. So in a toxic relationship, the problem isn't the passion. That's a good thing, right? The problem is often confusing chaos, for connection. Two very different things. So one of the other things that we need to be aware of is the environment that we are born into becomes the environment that we feel most comfortable. So what do I mean by that? Well, when you're born, and this is why, today many women, many couples recognize that the environment begins when your child is in the womb. And that's why they talk to them, play music, make them feel safe, loved before they're even born, because life has already begun when your child is in the womb, right? And then the environment that you come out of the womb in is going to be the environment in which you feel the most comfortable. What? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it might not be a good idea to be playing, heavy metal. Right? I don't know. But it could be. I don't know. But the point is, that environment is what we are always going to go back to feel safe. If it's chaotic, they're going to be very comfortable in chaos. If it's very peaceful and quiet, they're going to be more comfortable when it's peaceful and quiet. That's just the reality of it, right? So we want to make sure we help them create a environment that is going to be positive. And probably making it chaotic is not the best thing, right? But we will, if we're born into that environment of chaos, confuse chaos for connection. And then we get into chaotic relationships, kind of feel comfortable. It can still stress you out, still create anxiety. And if you were born into a chaotic environment, even though it would be where you feel most comfortable, you will feel more comfortable when you're anxious, when you're stressed out. And people go, why am I always stressed out? Well, because you probably created that pattern when you got it. Yeah, when you're a child, right? So some relationships feel like destiny right before they become destructive, right? So you can meet someone and it just seems they're perfect, right? And you're going, oh, thank you, God, you brought me this person at last. Finally, I found the right person for me. And you tell everybody that. And then they do something and you go, uh-oh, I didn't see that coming. Maybe they're not. Maybe suddenly the man you're with, after being kind and gentle and so nice and loving, suddenly screams at you. And you go, what the heck is that? Where is that coming from? Well, I hate to repeat it, but it's coming from your past, usually your childhood, right? And you're going to draw that man into your life over and over again. No, it's not exactly the same guy, right? But it is the same guy in a different body, right? And so instead of thinking I've been single for a year. How is it possible that after not dating for a year, I attract the same person into my life in a different body? Because you didn't change, right? Because you didn't change. You're the same person. You didn't do any work on yourself. You blame the other person. You thought you were the victim, and you're not. Now, that doesn't mean what they did was right. It doesn't mean what they did wasn't destructive. It doesn't mean what they did didn't hurt you. But it does mean that they didn't do it to you, that they were showing you the pattern that you need to change, the vibration inside of you, held up there by the energy that was created at the time it all happened, when you went, and you held it inside. and you've held that resentment, that anger, and it's killing you. And the universe, God, Brian, whatever you want to call it, is trying to show you that, reflecting it back to you. And if you don't listen and you don't get it, it's going to get more and more painful. You think you've had it tough. We haven't even started yet. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Right. So when would now be a good time to look at these patterns and change them? Now, huh? No. Wow, what a great idea. All right. So we're moving through these toxic relationships that we can have with everything, because everything is a relationship. I think I said that right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what are some of the things, what are the practical things that I can do right now, Stephen, to help resolve these, as you call them, toxic relationships, right? And the reason I call it toxic relationships is because everybody else seems to, right? I hadn't even heard of it until I had this toxic relationship, right? So just so you know, there's no single universally agreed term, toxic relationship. It's just a broad and very subjective, right? However, research suggests that a very large percentage of adults report experiencing some form of a toxic or unhealthy relationship dynamic during their lifetime. So here's some of the stats, right? Nearly 48% of women and 49% of men report experiencing psychological aggression from an intimate partner during their lifetime. How about that's more men than women? No. Mm-hmm. So, well, statistics. I mean, you can't believe statistics. I don't know. Anyway, so about 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men report severe intimate partner physical violence. Well, that you can believe, right? Around 80% of Americans report experiencing emotional abuse in some form during their lives. In 2025, a survey found that 52% of people questioned whether their relationship was toxic. All right, so the term toxic relationship is not an official clinical diagnosis. It can include emotional abuse, manipulation, gaslighting, coercive control, trauma bonding, narcissistic dynamics, and other psychologically unhealthy patterns. And why are they so common? Well, what have we talked about? Unresolved childhood wounds, trauma, and emotional conditioning. So you've heard of grooming, right? I was watching a documentary last night about what goes on in Las Vegas. I think it happens all over, but in Las Vegas, it's really intense with escort services, right? And how these men scour the country to find vulnerable women who are looking for the man of their dreams, and they become that for them. And they show them luxury cars and say, you can have this. And then they'll date them for a month or so, then they'll have them go live in Las Vegas. And they wine and dine them, and everything is perfect. And then one day, very suddenly, they're a pimp. Now they know where they live. They know where their family are. And very often they have children, and they know where they are, of course, right? And now they're forced to sign on to the escort agency, and they're trapped, many of them for the rest of their life, or as long as they can be used to be an escort. And sometimes they are sleeping with 15, 20 men a day. Now, of course, they're making a lot of money, right? Not for themselves. They don't get any of it. They're trapped. Now, can you imagine that? Hopefully not. Hopefully you can't. Now, the women they interview that share all this, the truth with them about what really goes on. And by the way, I think it's like 99% of escorts in Las Vegas are controlled by pimps. Now, some of those women did get away. So how do they make sense of all that? You know what I say to you, nothing happens to you, everything happens for you. How did that happen for them? Well, they all gave it a meaning, and they all used the experience in a way that empowered other women. And that in turn, of course, that empowered them, right? And now they're living a life that most people would find ordinary, but to them, it's now the life of their dreams. And they're so grateful and so happy that they can live a life of meaning and purpose because they didn't stay a victim. They recognized that there was a silver lining in all those experiences that they could use to help so many other women not fall into that trap, to recognize the patterns before they destroyed them. Very interesting. Very interesting, right? So look, I'm going to read you something, right? So what is the end result? What's the key in the end? The key in the end, the ancient told us, not the ancient, because there was more than one of them, right? The ancients told us this ancients ago. I mean, a long time ago, right? And they said, look, speak from the heart. Live from the heart. If somebody tells you is true, it will be heartfelt. So, you know, the Yupik elders, which is a group of people, community in Alaska, right? So they pass down traditions and values, and they share their knowledge through speaking it, right? And they have tremendous wisdom. And they share this wisdom through storytelling, teaching, and mentoring. They're teaching the Yupik elders language, the culture, and traditional skills. Advising and mentoring. Yupik elders are serving as advisors and mentors to their communities. They are sharing their insights and experience on a variety of issues, such as education, healthcare, and economic development. But they have a quote. It's kind of like a poem, right? And I want to read this to you. Yupik elders are a valuable resource for their communities. They are the keepers of the Yupik culture and traditions, and they're committed to ensuring the survival of their people. So here's that quote, poem, whatever you want to call it. It's just beautiful. So close your eyes for a minute. Your eyes are not closed. Anyway, close your eyes. Take a deep breath. In through your nose and then out through your heart. One more time. Deep breath through your nose. And then out through your heart. Okay, just sink into that. Keep your feet on the floor. Don't cross your legs. The Yupik elders of Alaska, they call this world we live in today the reverse society, or the inside-out society. They say with legitimacy that we have reversed all the laws of living. We used to teach how to live. Now we teach how to make a living. We used to honor elders, and now we honor youth and being young. The heart used to tell the mind what to do, and now the mind tells the heart what to do. Heart disease is the #1 cause of death in America. What you don't use, you lose. We live in a society that is totally in the head. Before, the brain would serve as an agent to fulfill that which comes from the heart. Now most people have forgotten to listen to the heart. Listen to the heart. The heart is the only thing that lives in the present. What goes through the mind or brain is never present. It is never in the now. This is a reverse society. We are inside out. So take that in. And in your intuition, in your heart, you know that is true. So take a deep breath in. Let it out through your heart and gently open your eyes. So, as I leave you, I'm going to remind you that you can get the first 3 chapters of the Venus Flytrap, Sex, Lies, and Repercussions. It's amazing. After you've read the first 3 chapters, you can't put it down. And then you'll find the book on Amazon. There's also a link in the notes to get the guidebook on the 7 signs of a toxic relationship. And there's more. Yeah, even more. If you really want to go some deeper, you want to go not some deeper, but a lot deeper, and to really identify those patterns that are not working for you and get help changing them, then you can get a free complimentary 30-minute session with me to help see if you think or feel that I can help and we can work together. There's also a website there's all kinds of stuff, right? We give it all away, right? And I hope to see you there and we build a relationship together and we meet. That would be amazing. In the meantime, remember that nothing happens to you. Everything happens for you.
Let's go. Spiritual sparkle in a world of gray, finding the truth in the disarray. It's a raw confession of a life lived fast, breaking the chains of a heavy past, from the erotic spirit to the soul's rebirth, finding what a human life is really worth. Sex, lies, and the repercussions stay as we dance the final act away. Just a true story of a love so deep, promises that we could never keep. In the garden of the trap we lay, waiting for the break.